Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 38 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. I'm joined, as always, by Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, very good. Same old, same old. This show is number 38. We've done 37 previous shows, and we've brought you 75 guests, some reoccurring, admittedly, but again, 75 guests in 37 shows. As I said in one of the earlier shows, we aim to bring you 2 guests per show. Sometimes we've brought you 3, sometimes we've brought you 4, sometimes we've brought you none. It really has been up and down, up and down. There's not too much to review in part 1 here. Of course, part 1 consists of the review part, and then we usually bring on a first guest. So there's really not much to review. Something that I want to just suggest to you, Ayaz, I know that we've talked before about bringing in like a prediction league kind of thing. We're not going to predict fights every week, but just the big fights. If we put a prediction down, and maybe you can keep the chart, and we can have somewhat of like a little score. I think we can maybe have a bet of about 2 pence, and we'll see who ends up winning it after. I don't know, after when we get to episode 50 or something, we'll see who's in the lead. But do you mind keeping the scores on that? You know, if we predict a couple of fights here and there, the big fights, of course, we're going to predict a couple on this show.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, bring a bit of excitement in. Also, I just wanted to point out that I think from now we're actually going to start, because there's a load of crazy names for boxers, and I don't mean nicknames, Smoking Joe Frazier type names. I mean some really crazy names that boxers are listed as. So I think from now on, every single week when we do a show, we're gonna make it part of part 1. We're going to talk about the craziest name that we've seen who's fighting in that week. Okay, so there was a couple of crazy names last week, but we're not going to include them. We're going to start with the crazy names that are fighting this week. I'm only going to bring you 1 per week. I'm going to really try and dig through all the fights. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to talk about that fight. You know, we don't know nothing about most of these crazy name fighters, but we're going to mention their fight, and we're going to let you know the result next week. And hopefully next week we'll be able to tell you about a new crazy fight or crazy fighter's name coming up on that weekend. So this week, I've looked through all the fights that's taking place, and on the Saturday, I must say the craziest one I've come across has to be a guy in the Philippines, a Filipino guy, and his name is Honey Boy Padillo. And I'm not joking. You can go and look it up. His name is Honey Boy Padillo. He changed his name to Honey Boy. That wasn't his birth name. He had some Filipino birth name, but he's changed his name to Honey Boy Padillo. So at the moment, his record is 1-0. He's having a 4-round fight. He's a light flyweight, and he's fighting a guy who's only had 1 fight, and it was a loss, in Jeffrey Claro. So next week, we'll update you to let you know if Honey Boy Padillo has remained undefeated in his 2nd professional bout. Anyway, that's it for the crazy names. We're now going to go into the review. There's really not much to review. As I said, the first fight that we're going to talk about happened over in Chicago, Illinois. Top of the bill, Juan Carlos Payano. He fought a rematch against Rashay Warren. Payano 17-0 going into this fight. Warren 13-1. That 1 loss coming to Payano. This was for Payano's WBA Super World Bantamweight title and the IBO World Bantamweight title. Not a lot of people credit that belt there. Anyway, it came down to a majority decision. Rashay Warren got the majority decision win. So Payano now 17-1, and Rashay Warren has wrote that. I think that's the saying. He's wrote the wrong, and he's come back off the blemish and defeated the guy that defeated him. So he's wrote that wrong. That's what it is. And Warren now the new WBA Super World Bantamweight title. So this will be one that Jamie McDonnell would have paid a close eye to, and I know that he'll be gunning for Warren now. And I think he could beat Warren. But the fight itself, it was a strange fight. It was kind of like turning in the tides a lot during the fight. Payano was coming forward a lot. Warren was... It really wasn't an impressive fight. There's a lot of decent fights at bantamweight, the smaller guys, but this one really wasn't a fantastic fight. But like I say, Warren, it's a good win for him. And on that undercard, a serious shock, a real big upset. A lot of people saying it's the biggest upset of 2016. Andre Fonfara defending his WBC International Light Heavyweight title. As I said on last week's show, he kind of made his name from losing to Adonis Stevenson. He fought Joe Smith Jr., who had a record of 21-1, hadn't really fought any great names or anything like that. We hadn't really heard of him. And Fonfara started the fight pretty well, started the round pretty well, should I say, in round one. Came out. He looked to sort of tag Joe Smith with a couple of shots. I wasn't sure what was going on, and he threw a flurry of punches, and Joe Smith just threw a counter overhand right, and it put Fonfara down. Now, he got up pretty much, with a couple of seconds after being knocked down. He got up, he wasn't down for too long, and his legs just sort of carried him into the ropes. They kind of ran into the ropes. Like, he didn't, his legs didn't really know what they were doing, like I say, he got up, his legs made him run into the ropes, and then the referee sort of gave him the benefit of the doubt and did let it carry on, and about 10 seconds later he was on the deck again, and it went down as a TKO for Joe Smith Jr., so a good win for him. And from Fonfara, I don't really want to be too quick to write him off. I think he is a good fighter. He's proved that against Adonis Stevenson and Nathan Cleverly, etc., but I don't know if he was just caught cold or it was just a good counter punch. I don't know, but we didn't really get to see too much. So I don't know if Joe Smith Jr. is the next big thing, or was it just a fluke? We don't know. So very, very strange fight, but like I say, a big upset. And the only other fight that I'm going to mention happened over in Lewiston in USA. Steve Collins Jr. successfully moved to 8-0 with the one draw. He picked up a unanimous decision win after 6 rounds in the cruiserweight division. His opponent, Jose Humberto Corral. Anyway, that's it for the very, very short review part of the show. Before we end part 1, we're going to bring on our first guest. Okay, our first guest on this week's show is fighting on the Joshua undercard on Saturday against Chris Eubank Jr. It's none other than Mr. Tom Doran. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thanks for having me on here.
My pleasure. First things first, how are you doing on this day?
Fantastic. It's actually my last day of training today, so I'm looking forward to winding down and recharging the batteries for Saturday night after today.
Absolutely. Now, you've gathered a 17-0 record yourself. Very good record, undefeated, of course, including especially the last fight, which was a brilliant fight to watch while it lasted. You're putting it all on the line against Chris Eubank Jr. How are you feeling just a few days before fight night now?
Great. I do genuinely feel great. It's a massive fight for me. Massive platform, event, whatever you like to call it. And I'm just looking forward to, soaking all that up this weekend and, putting on a great performance at the O2.
Now, you're a big underdog. Eubank is being lined up with the Golovkin fight, but obviously he's got to get past you to get there. Is it a good thing that he's kind of overlooking you a little bit from your point of view?
Yeah, definitely. The more distraction, the better, I believe. And look, I've never had concerns at all about upsetting the apple cart. Other people's plans don't factor into my plans.
Obviously, in the last fight, it was an up and down fight. It was very exciting to watch, as I said. Obviously, you were put down by Keeler. Now, knowing about the punch ferociousness that Eubank brings to the table, how confident are you that you'll be able to go to deep water and swim? But not only that, but you're coming off of 4 knockouts yourself. Do you feel that your power's underrated as well? Do you reckon there's going to be a knockout in this fight?
I do, yeah, definitely.
And like I say, how confident are you? He throws a lot of hard punches, a lot of fast punches, as we've seen. Obviously, horrible stuff in the Nick Blackwell fight. How confident are you that you can go to deep water and swim?
I mean, he does throw a lot of punches, but at stationary targets. you know, you can look at the videos of him training. It's easy to throw a lot of punches and hard punches. It's just repetitive, same punch, same punch, same punch, same punch. You know, and the pads don't move.
Okay. Have you watched any of the Billy Joe Saunders fight and taken anything from that you're going to bring into it? Yeah. I'm glad to hear you say that.
I've watched a few of the fights. You know, obviously I wouldn't discuss a game plan with anyone, but yeah, I've watched enough.
And in terms of, you know, the time that this fight has come around, do you feel that would you have liked this fight perhaps in a few months' time, or do you reckon it's the perfect time for this fight?
Perfect. There's plenty of distraction on the in the other camp. Not that I need that, because I'd be expecting 100% Chris Eubank Jr. As he'll be getting a 110% Tom Doran. But yeah, I think timing's perfect.
And how much would it mean to you and Welsh boxing for you to win that title and bring the British title back to Wales? I believe if you win this fight, you'll be the second man from the north of Wales to win the title.
I believe so, yeah. So obviously that would be massive. You know, Wales did great in the football last night. We'll make it a double this weekend.
Absolutely. Do you watch the sport of boxing much, Tom? And if you do, who's your favourite fighter to watch at the moment?
Favourite fighter to watch? It would have to be a toss-up between Golovkin and Lomachenko.
Do you sort of hold Golovkin at the top of the pile in the middleweight division in the world terms?
Yeah, at this moment in time, definitely.
Who would you like to see Golovkin face in the near future as his next fight? Would you like to see that Canelo fight, or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, that would be a great fight. I love Canelo as well. I don't know how I would call that, to be honest, but I think it'd be a cracking fight.
Now, just before I let you go, Tom, I just wanted to give you a chance to thank any sponsors or anyone that you want to thank in general. I want to give you that airtime. So if there's anyone to thank, please go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank AJ Field, Electrical Mechanical. You know, he's been a sponsor for a long time now. Keystone Property, Signatures Restaurants, Shaka the Bookie Smacker, Corbett's Bookies. These sponsors have come on board on this fight, definitely, and I'm grateful to all of those. Also, the whole of North Wales, and and beyond that, for just the amount of support, messages of good wishes. The support has been unreal for this fight, and I can't thank them all enough. And I'll be putting on a great performance for them all Saturday night.
Absolutely. A lot of people backing you in this one, Tom. Listen, I wish you the absolute best of luck. I really, really hope you can go out there and give it the 110% and do the business on the night, Tom.
Brilliant.
All right, thank you very much for giving us a bit of time.
Thanks. Bye now.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part where we preview the fights that are taking place this weekend. We also bring in a guest, and we also bring you the news. Ayaz, I know you've got a juicy piece of news for us. So just to start part 2, give us this nice bit of news that we've been waiting to hear for quite a while now.
Sergey Kovalev is set to defend his world light heavyweight titles against Andre Ward in Las Vegas on November 19.
Oh. Everybody that we've spoke to on this show that are in the light heavyweight division, I've asked them about this fight, including someone we spoke to, I think it was on last week's show. Yeah, it was. Who did we speak to last week? It was a light heavyweight. Anthony Yard. Yeah, Anthony Yard. I asked him about that fight, so I'm very, very happy to know that it's now officially on. Yeah, so it's on November the 19th. Ayaz, this is a proper fight, isn't it? This really is. Well, I don't want to say brawler against boxer, because I know that Kovalev's got very underrated boxing skills himself, but this really is the ultimate fight, isn't it? This really is where we're going to see how good Kovalev is, or how good Ward is. To be honest, we're both going to see. Ward is almost like the undisputed pound-for-pound king when he was active. Mayweather was there on top of him, but Mayweather's now hung up the gloves, unofficially, officially, who knows? And it'll be interesting to see this. This is one of them fights you just can't miss. It's, I know that we've had a lot of them lately, these fights that you can't miss, but it's fantastic. That Pacquiao Mayweather fight this year, we're getting that. I don't know if it's up there with this on the same sort of level as that, but to me and to a lot of the other hardcore boxing fans, I think it is. How interested are you to see this fight? How excited are you to see this fight, Ayaz?
I'm looking forward for this fight because obviously Andre Ward, in my opinion, I reckon he's pound for pound, and he's obviously a very technical and very good boxer. And obviously we've seen Kovalev just knock out Pascal in his last fight, wasn't it?
Yeah. Knocked him. Twice now he's knocked out Pascal.
And it's one monster versus a technical boxer, which in my opinion is a very good fight.
Yeah, hopefully it shapes up that way. But yeah, Kovalev, oh boy. I actually, do you know what? We're gonna do a prediction on that. It's quite a long way away. It's in November, but I am actually picking Kovalev to win that, Ayaz. I actually am picking Kovalev. Whether that shocks you or not, I've had him for quite a while. I've thought if this fight gets made, I've got Kovalev. I've had that opinion for a few months now. What do you think?
I'm gonna go for a Ward win on points.
Okay, well, we'll see close to the time, and hopefully I'm winning in the prediction league by then, and hopefully I win again. But we'll see. At the minute it's 0-0, so we're going to get in some predictions very shortly. We're going to start the preview part of the show with a strange old fight happening on Friday over in China. Get a load of this one, Ayaz. Ian Lewison fighting in China. This is for the WBO Asia Pacific heavyweight title. He's fighting a guy called Zi Yu Wu, who has a record of 7-0. It's a strange one, isn't it?
Yes, definitely it is.
So Ian Lewison from Brixton travelling over to China. I don't really understand. There's a lot of mad fights, like strange fights that have happened in strange places, and this certainly is up there with some of the most recent ones for sure. Also in China on that same night over in Beijing, China, at the Capital Gym, Javier Fortuna defends his WBA World Super Featherweight title against Jason Sosa. Javier Fortuna 29-0 with the one draw. Jason Sosa 18-1 with 4 draws. This will be a good fight. I'm looking forward to see what happens here. And also on that undercard, Jun Ki Kao is fighting Nohomar Semeno. Apologies on both parts for the bad pronunciation. This is for the vacant WBA World Super Bantamweight title. So that will be interesting. That's the one that Scott Quigg held and then lost to Carl Frampton, and then Carl Frampton relinquished it while he moved up to face Leo Santa Cruz. So that one's up for grabs there, and it's strange to see that fight happen in Beijing. So a couple of good fights there from relatively unknown fighters. Jun Ki Kao has a record of 20 wins and 2 losses. Nehumar Semeno has a record of 23 wins, 5 losses and 1 draw. So my bet is that whoever wins this won't be a champion for a long time. Okay, that's it for China. We're now going to come back to the UK over in Glasgow, Scotland. Just wanted to let everybody know that Gary Cornish is back in action. He has a record of 22 wins and 1 loss. His opponent yet to be announced. That's it for Scotland. We're now going to go over to Belgium. Friend of the show, Joe Fournier, he looks to move to 5-0. This bout's only a 4-rounder. It's a super middleweight. His opponent is having his 40th professional fight on the night. So could it be an upset? Could it be a big win and a big 40? Joe Fournier, of course, 4-0 at the moment. So it's good to get in there with these vastly experienced guys. It's really good. It's experience that money can't buy, and we wish Joe Fournier all the best. Just thought we'd point out to our listeners that he's back out again in Belgium. That's it for Belgium. We're now going to go over to the big one on Saturday night, O2 Arena, London, United Kingdom. We're going to start with the undercard. We're going to start with Felix Cash, the new Matchroom signing. He's making his debut in a 4-rounder at middleweight against Yelton Neves, who has a record of 0 wins, 1 loss, 0 draws. So Felix Cash, it'll be interesting. I hope that his fight's televised because I want to see how good he is in the professional ranks. Also on that bill, Ted Cheeseman. He faces Danny Little. It's a 6-rounder at welterweight. Ted Cheeseman looking to move to 5-0, a promising prospect. Conor Benn is also on the bill. He looks to move to 3-0. He's in a 4-rounder. I want to see his fight as well. Also on this bill, Cal Yafai, 18-0 at the moment, looking to move to 19-0. His opponent yet to be announced at the moment. Anthony Ogogo also on the bill, looking to move to 10-0. 6-rounder at middleweight, his fight. He faces a guy with a record of 11 wins and 2 losses by the name of Frane Radnich. Also on the bill, Dillian White, the body snatcher, looking to move to 17 professional wins. He's got the 1 loss to Anthony Joshua. It's a 6-rounder at heavyweight, and he faces Danny Bachelder, who has a record of 31 wins, 11 losses, and 1 draw. Also on the bill, Chris Eubank Jr., defending his British middleweight title against Tom Doran, 17-0. Chris Eubank Jr., 22-1. There's a lot of good fights on this bill. Let's be completely honest. Also on the bill, yet again, every single fight is a fight that I want to watch. John Wayne Hibbert, he fights for the vacant WBC silver super lightweight title against Andrea Scarpa. John Wayne Hibbert 17-3, Scarpa 19-2. I really hope that John Wayne Hibbert can pull this win off. I really do like the guy, and I really wish him the best. And if he wins this, he creeps into a good ranking with the WBC at super lightweight at 140. So he might even end up on the world stage if he gets through this in a few months' time. Also on the bill, George Groves against Martin Murray. Everybody knows this is the fight of the night. It's for the WBA International Super Middleweight title, the title that Groves currently holds. It's, of course, at super middleweight. Ayaz, how do you see this fight going? This really is a big fight. We had Paddy Fitzpatrick on the show last week, the former trainer of George Groves. He was saying, it's a straight down the middle 50-50 fight. George Groves, not the best at fighting inside. Martin Murray, that's one of his strongest things in his arsenal. So what do you think about this fight, Ayaz?
Whoever loses the fight, in my opinion, will retire, I reckon. Personally, I'm going to go for a George Groves win. And by George Groves win, it's going to be a points win. So it's a make or break fight.
Yeah, I hope that, a lot of people are tipping George Groves to win. I hope that if he does win, Martin Murray doesn't retire, because it's a lot of middleweights retiring recently, if you haven't noticed, from the UK. Of course, a couple of years back, Darren Barker, he retired. He was a middleweight. Then we've lost recently Matthew Macklin. He's gone as well. And Martin Murray, although he's now campaigning at super middle, he's been a middleweight for the most part of his career. So it'd be a shame to lose 3 guys all relatively, on that world stage kind of thing. So it's a shame for Martin Murray. Martin Murray is one of the most unluckiest boxers in British boxing right now. He's had a couple of world title bids that have gone the wrong way on the night due to the fight taking place in the champion's back garden. But this really is a 50-50. I'm gonna press you for a prediction here, Ayaz. I know that we don't really like to predict on these 50-50 fights because it really divides people. I hope that we don't get a bunch of haters for doing this, but who do you see winning this? Because I tell you what, a part of me really thinks Martin Murray, but I think I'm going to have to go with Groves. I'm just worried about his engine, man, because Martin Murray keeps coming for the whole 12 rounds. Ayaz, talk to me.
I'm going to go for George Groves to win on points.
Yeah, I don't see anybody getting knocked out. There's no way I can see George Groves knocking Martin Murray out. I can't see... Oh, do you know what? I think if there was going to be a knockout, I think, Murray don't really hit hard enough. It's such a toss-up fight. It really, really is. Obviously, Martin Murray went 11 rounds with Golovkin, which was quite impressive. He knocks everybody out much earlier than that. George Groves was sparring Golovkin. There's a lot of rumours around that. Who really knows what happened? But this is going to be a really good fight. This is the one I'm looking forward to the most. And top of the bill, of course, Anthony Joshua, the current IBF World Heavyweight Champion. He puts his belt on the line against undefeated Olympian Dominic Breazeale. Both guys undefeated as pros. Both guys Olympians. Anthony Joshua 16-0. Dominic Breazeale 17-0. Ayaz, how do you see this fight going?
I'm going to go for a Joshua knockout. This is the reason, because I haven't much seen of Breazeale, and obviously we've seen Joshua knocking out all of his fights he's had. It's all been knockout. So everyone knows more. I personally know more about Joshua than Breazeale, so that's why I'm going to go for a Joshua win.
Okay. I know a little bit about Breazeale. I know that he fought Amir Mansour and looked gassed after a couple of rounds, to be honest, and it really wasn't impressive, even though he got the win. And Mansour was about 42 when they fought, so Joshua's just, it's a bit of a mismatch. He's too big, he's too strong, he's too active, he's too fit, and I think he's going to be hitting too hard on the night. I can see a stoppage here for Anthony Joshua. I'd like to see Breazeale test him. I'm not hating on Joshua when I say that. I would like to see him tested. We just have not seen him get hit at all in all 16 fights. And I think it's going to be in all 17. I really hope we see Breazeale test him and land something on him. Obviously, Dillian Whyte did. He just didn't jump on him at that moment. Dillian Whyte put up a really good account of himself, actually. And yeah, so Anthony Joshua, yeah, I think that Ayaz, I know that we're talking about doing this prediction league, but I don't think there's anything that we don't agree on here. I think a Joshua knockout. We both. I'm gonna go with you on George Groves on points. So yeah, I think that we're agreeing on everything here. I'm going with Dillian Whyte over his opponent. The other guys fairly, they're in their fights to win them pretty easily. The prospects like Conor Benn, etc. So I think we can't be split on this one. But that's it for the UK. We're now going to go over to the USA. Just a fight I want to mention over in Louisiana. Prospect Devin Haney, he gets out again, promising lightweight to look out for. He looks to move to 7-0. He fights Clay Burns, who has a winning record of 4 wins, 1 loss and 2 draws. So again, Devin Haney, this fight won't be televised or anything like that, but definitely look out for that name. I know he's just landed a big sponsor, I think, with Reebok. Don't want to get that wrong. I hope I got that right. But yeah, promising young guy. He's only 17 and he's really, really making waves already. That's it for Louisiana. We're now going to go over to the big one happening over at the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, New York. To be honest, it's not a fantastic undercard, but 2 fights I want to mention on the bill. Firstly, I'm going to start with the co-main event. Jarrett Hurd, 17-0. He faces Oscar Molina, 13-0 with 1 draw. This is up at Super Welter, and this is a 10-rounder. Both guys undefeated. Somebody's has to go. And now the main event. Keith Thurman, 26-0. He puts his WBA World Welterweight title on the line against Sean Porter, 26-1 with 1 draw. That 1 loss coming to our very own Kell Brook. Ayaz, this is a fight that we've been waiting for a long time. I think it was first scheduled for March. I think that it was Keith Thurman who injured himself and it was postponed. It might have been Porter, actually. I can't remember, to be honest. But this is finally happening. It's here. It's happening on the weekend. This really is a 50-50 fight, Ayaz. How do you see this one going? Yes,
obviously the fight got postponed because Keith Thurman was in a car crash, right? Porter, we know, is a very good fighter, right? And so is Keith Thurman. Obviously, Keith Thurman has vowed to knock Porter out within the first 8 rounds. And obviously, I like Porter, but I like Thurman as well. But so I'm going to go for a Thurman win. And they say if Thurman wins this fight, we could see Thurman and Brook in a future fight.
I believe the winner is actually supposed to be, I think, David Avanesian, who we had on the show just before he beat Shane Mosley. He is in position because he's the interim WBA champion of the world. So he's in position to fight the winner of this fight. So I want to see that fight because I believe in David Avanesian. I think he's a really good fighter and he's going to be making waves soon. And he's already made waves, to be totally honest. So I want to see him against the winner. And perhaps the winner of that could fight Kell Brook. I know that David Avanesian actually broke one of Kell Brook's ribs in sparring. So, I mean, it's only sparring. Fights are not won in sparring, but that'd be a good fight. I do want to see it's really hotting up in the 147 division without with the absence of Mayweather. So it's interesting to see what's unfolding here. But I think, it's a tough one again. I can see both guys winning it. I can see Sean Porter winning. Do you think it's going to be a knockout or points?
I personally reckon it'll go to points.
Yeah, I think it's probably a points fight as well. But Sean Porter just comes relentlessly. Do you know what? I can see Sean Porter. I'm going to go against you just to make it interesting. So we've got something to keep a score on here. I'm going to go with Sean Porter to win this fight. Part of me actually, I think that Keith Thurman's going to win, but I'm actually going to go with Sean Porter just to make it interesting. Sean Porter's going to beat Keith Thurman. We'll see. So you keep the scores on that one, Ayaz, and we'll find out next week. We're both going with points. So I'm going with Porter points. You're going with Furman points. We'll see who comes out victorious on that one. And also over in the Bomb Factory, Dallas, Texas, USA, Matt Korobov returns to the ring to face Brian Vera over 8 rounds at super middleweight. This one, Matt Korobov 25-1. That one loss, devastating loss to Andy Lee. I remember watching that one. That was a big knockout, one of those punches from the gods that Andy Lee manages to find when he's losing fights. And Brian Vera has a record of 23 wins and 10 losses. I think this is going to be a comfortable win for Matt Korobov, to be honest. Also on this bill, Mike Mile High Alvarado, 35-4. Everybody knows who he is. He's fighting in an 8-rounder at welterweight against Josh Torres, who has a record of 15 wins and 4 losses with 2 draws. Also on that bill, Eric De Leon, 12-0. He faces Carlos Vacarsel, 14-7 with 4 draws. And that's really it for the previewing on this week's show. We're now going to welcome our second and final guest. Our second guest on this week's show is a very special guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Olympic gold medalist, former light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of the world. It's Mr. Michael Spinks. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot. No problem.
No problem. My pleasure. Firstly, Michael, I do want this interview to be, based mainly on your career. That's the reason we got you on the show. But before we get into that, there's nowhere else really to start than the very sad news the boxing world received a couple of weeks ago, the passing of the great Muhammad Ali. I know you and your brother have memories with Ali. What's your reaction to this loss?
Well, Leon fought him, so I really didn't have a chance to really get into Muhammad Ali, but he fought Leon, and Leon was a big fan of Muhammad. I was a big fan of Muhammad Ali, so but Leon beat him, so Leon was a little more familiar with him than myself. But I always did. I sat with him on a number of occasions, and he was a really funny and fun-loving man. So that's what I remember a lot about him.
Absolutely. I just wanted to touch on your brother, Leon. How is he now health-wise?
Leon doing pretty good.
Okay, that's good to hear.
He's healthy. He's healthy.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Okay, let's get into your career. Tell us how the journey started, Michael, in a nutshell, how it all began from your first time that you stepped into a ring as an amateur up until the point you turned pro. Just quickly sum that up for us, please.
Well, Leon went to the gym first. Leon came home and said, Mike, I went to the gym. I was the third family member. Leon was born first, my sister, then myself. So Leon, I think we got picked on a lot, So Leon, some guys took Leon to the gym. The Westbrook brothers, they took Leon to the gym. Leon came home and said, Mike, I went to the gym. So the very next day, I because I was a little crazy, and I tried to fight Leon. Leon whooped some of his stuff on me. So the very next day after that, I went to the gym. The very next day. So therefore, I was learning how to fight as Leon was learning how to fight, and it was really, really spectacular. And in that instance of learning how to fight as Leon did too. So it was great. It was a great learning experience, and I learned as well as Leon. But Leon learned a lot faster than myself. And I always kind of not envied, but I admired just how fast Leon learned how to fight. We had a great, great coach. And the first coach was Jim Merle was his name. And he was teaching us how to fight. Speed. He taught us speed. He taught us how to bob and weave. He was a good teacher. So that was the top, or the very beginning of our learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as I said, you had an illustrious amateur career, winning the gold medal as well. You turned pro in 1977, weighing in around 168, which nowadays is the super middleweight limit. How many super middleweights nowadays could move up to heavyweight and win a world title? None is the answer. In your 17th professional fight, you challenged Eddie Mustafa Muhammad for the WBA light heavyweight world title, which was your first professional 15-round fight. Tell us about that fight, Michael.
Well, you know, Eddie Mustafa was one heck of a puncher. He was a puncher. You know, so anyway, I did believe that I could beat him, and I stayed in a clubhouse in the Catskills of New York, and you know, I always, for some reason, I followed the sevens because I was born 7/22/56. So you know, I always just felt that a sevens was on my side. So when I fought Eddie Mustafa, I stayed in a hotel, not a hotel, but a clubhouse, a golf clubhouse where it was a 777G. So I just didn't pay no attention to that, you know. And then I said, well, let me see what number is the letter G in the alphabet. So I looked it up like later on as I trained, and I looked it up. You know, and G, the letter G is the seventh letter in the alphabet. So I'm like, oh, I had 4 sevens, so I believed in that. And when I fought Eddie Mustafa, I thought that I would beat him because of the sevens, and I did. I did beat him, and I fought him well, knocked him down, and I was happy about that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The 777G was a great omen for me, where just I believed in the sevens, and they came through for me. That's all I got to say about that. They came through for me, so I won with the 777G. In other words, I had 4 sevens that was dependent on, and when I fought Eddie Mustafa. But I knew he was a tough opponent, so I mean, I just did the best I could to beat him, and I won.
Yeah, but a fantastic fight to look back on. And it'll be 35 years next month since you won that first title from Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. Now, you successfully defended your title 5 times after that fight. You won all of those fights by knockout. Then you meet Dwight Muhammad Qawi. You hold the WBA light heavyweight title. He holds the WBC light heavyweight title. You fight to unify the titles. Tell us about this fight, because, of course, you won this fight after 15 rounds again by unanimous decision. How is this fight for you looking back now?
It was a great fight, and people don't know that when Dwight Braxton, which is Muhammad Qawi, when he come out of prison, when he was in prison, I think, he come out of prison, he come to Joe Frazier's gym. I used to box Braxton every day, and I used to whoop his ass. Excuse my French.
No, that's okay. That's okay on this show.
And he would try to be slick. And hit me with like an overhead punch, but I was hip to his style. And every time he tried to be slick, I would really like pepper up. I would pepper him with a lot of punches, and he would get mad because I would go on his ass. But he tried to be slick and hit me with a sucker punch. So anyway, me and Braxton became good friends. He's a friend of mine right now. And I whooped his ass a lot. And you can tell him that. He'll get mad and say I didn't, but I whooped his ass a lot. And he became one of my sparring partners. I took on the road with me for a couple of fights. And so Braxton was a real tough guy to spar with. I had a good time sparring with him, but I whooped his ass a lot. And then when he tried to be slick, after we were finished around, and him going back to his corner, I would kick him in the ass with the side of my foot, because he tried to be slick, but I caught him in his game, and we had a good time. Me and Braxton had a good time. I love Braxton. Me and Braxton had a good time boxing and sparring together, and I taught him. I think I taught him how to fight, because after he left me, he became a champ.
Absolutely.
But I whooped his ass a lot. I whooped his ass a whole lot.
Yeah, you made that
you
clear.
can tell that he ain't gonna never admit to that. But I whooped his ass a whole lot.
I don't think anyone's ever said that word so many times.
Yeah, he can tell you. He know it. He know it.
Then you
we
defend...
had a good time sparring and being together.
Yeah, of course. Then you defend both your WBA and WBC world titles for the first time and get another knockout, this time over an undefeated fighter. You then go on to fight Eddie Davis for the IBF. The IBF had just started their organisation back then, so they put the belt on the line, if I'm not mistaken. So 3 world titles were up for grabs. You pick up the win and the vacant IBF title. You become the first light heavyweight to hold the IBF title, and you retain all 3 of the belts. You go on to defend your title twice against 2 undefeated fighters, both 16-0. You win both of those fights by knockout. Now, at this point, you've had a wonderful career. You're 27-0. You're the undisputed light heavyweight champion of the world, but you do the unthinkable and move up to heavyweight. You jump straight into a world title fight with undefeated IBF heavyweight champion and one of the best heavyweights ever, Larry Holmes. Now, his record at the time is 48-0. He's beaten Ken Norton, he's beaten Muhammad Ali, he's beaten your brother Leon, Trevor Berbick, you name it. He also weighs about over 40 pounds more than anyone you've ever fought at this point. Michael, tell us what happened in this fight.
Well, when I had to fight Larry, I had a guy, a nutritionist that would help me. He said, I can help you do that, Mike. So I let him help me. And what I thought about beating was my nutritionist. He only weighed 135 pounds. So I said, look, I don't supposed to beat Larry Holmes. Everybody says I can't beat him because, and nobody has never done that. So what I thought about was beating my nutritionist. And I said, if I beat him, the fight with Larry Holmes should be a cinch because this guy only weighs 135 pounds. So I thought about beating my nutritionist first. And I thought that fighting Larry would be a cinch because if I could beat this 135-pound fighter, but nutritionist, I knew that when I fought Larry, I'd be in good shape for fighting Larry. So anyway, that's what I thought about. That was my mindset. So when I got in the ring with Larry, I found out, that I was a little afraid, but when I got in the ring with Larry, I thought about what I did with the nutritionist, my friend Mackie Shieldstone. So I thought I would do well if I did well with him, and that's what I thought about. So when I got in the ring with Larry, I saw Larry was a little afraid to come on with the come on. So in that, I wasn't afraid of Larry when I got in there. So I once we got in the ring with one another, and all of a sudden I thought Larry was going to come on with the come on, but he didn't come on with the come on. He respected me, and when he respected me, I took advantage of that. I started coming on with the come on. I started pressuring him. I started putting pressure on him. I started hitting him with punches, and then I saw him close his eyes one time when I threw punches at him. And that was the worst thing he could have ever done with me, close his eyes. So I just put pressure on him. And I found out that I was more experienced than Larry in the ring that night. And I whooped his ass.
Now, this fight, this was the first one. It went down as the biggest upset of 1985. You beat undefeated Larry Holmes. You become the second man in history to win a world title at light heavy and heavy. You also get revenge for your brother as well, and you also deny Larry from matching.
There you go. You said a mouthful when you said that. I got revenge for Leon.
You also deny Larry from matching Rocky Marciano's 49-0 record, which I'm sure you didn't care about. You rematch Larry 3 months later.
I cared about it. I didn't care about it. I don't care about my own ass. But,
exactly.
But when I did beat Larry, I became an Italian hero for Marciano and stopping Larry Holmes for breaking or tying with Rocky Marciano.
You rematch Larry 3 months later at the same venue. You become the only man to this day to beat Larry Holmes twice. Michael, what fight was the most difficult fight for you out of the 2 with Holmes? We've previously had him on our show, God bless him. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, well, the second fight was more difficult because I did some things that I shouldn't have been doing. I was throwing like a medicine ball, and for some reason it seemed to have, really tired me out, tired my arms out when I did that. And I kept telling my nutritionist, but I think, he had a problem with Butch, my promoter, and for some reason I think he was trying to help me lose that fight, but I wanted to fight anyway.
Now, as you say, you won this fight via split decision after 15 rounds. You retain your IBF heavyweight crown. Now, you have 2 more fights, winning both by knockout, one in 1986 against Stefan Tangstad and one in 1987 against Jerry Cooney. We actually had Jerry Cooney on our show 2 weeks ago. In the Jerry Cooney fight, you had your title stripped for taking the Cooney fight instead of fighting your mandatory challenger, Tony Tucker. You fought Cooney for more money than what was offered for the Tucker fight. In the meantime, Mike Tyson fights Tony Tucker and beats him. Now Mike Tyson holds the WBC, WBA and IBF heavyweight titles, but you're still considered as the lineal champion after beating Holmes. Now the fight between you and Tyson comes round. You're 31-0. Mike Tyson's 34-0. You suffer your first loss. Talk to us about this fight, please, Michael.
Well, I had a hard time preparing for the fight because I have been off a long time, so really I started living like a retired man, and then when the fight did come about, I had been living like a retired man. I was kind of skeptical about fighting a real powerful opponent as Tyson, but I had to go through with the fight, and I thought that I would do well against him, but, with him being the type of boxer that he was, all I could do was do the best I could, but he was a lot more equipped than I was in that particular fight, and I lost.
Yeah. Now I just want to ask you a couple of questions about your career because I've been narrating all of it. What was the toughest fight of your career, Michael, in your opinion, looking back now?
Well, the toughest fight had to be with Mike Tyson because I didn't get through that fight. I didn't get through it. I lost and I got stopped, so that got to be the toughest one that I fought. I also had my second pro fight. I fought a guy named Luis Rodriguez or something like that, and he gave me all I needed in the fight. He was punch for punch. He was coming back. I was hitting with everything I had. He kept coming back, but it was really a tough fight that I had with him. And that was the fight that I could say that was a tough fight, but the fight that I didn't finish was with Mike Tyson. So I do claim that one as being the toughest fight of my career.
That fight you mentioned there in your second pro fight, that those type of fights obviously shaped you up for the fighter that you became later on.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, who was the hardest puncher you've ever shared a ring with? Not just in fighting, but maybe also in sparring. I know that you fought quite a few guys who could punch hard.
Yeah, who was that? I can't remember. I can't remember the guy that.
Jerry Cooney had quite a fair crack on him.
Jerry Cooney was left-handed, but he fought as a right-handed. So I tried to stay away from his left hand, and I did. So I pulled it off. But I can't recall. Well, I had a guy named Pete Sewer or something like that, a sparring partner of mine, that was a hard puncher.
Okay.
But I had a lot of guys that punched really hard as a sparring partner, but I managed to get through all of the sparring with them guys, and I beat most of my sparring partners up.
You whooped their asses, yeah?
Yeah, I whooped their ass because I was ready for them in sparring. I was ready for that because, a lot of my sparring partners tried to beat me up, but I was ready for them. And I performed well in sparring. I really did.
Yeah. Now, what would you put down as your best performance or your best win? And also the greatest moment of your career? Because like I say, you've had an illustrious one, many world title fights. You were the man, and you probably still are the man. You're one of the best light heavyweights ever to lace them up. So what would you say was or was it beating Holmes? What was the best win for you, the best performance for you?
Beating Holmes, in the first fight when I beat Holmes, that was, I had fun. I really enjoyed, and I had a good time fighting Holmes the first time because I had it all my way. And I never forget that. Because I took Larry's heart. I made him respect me in the ring. and I whooped his ass, and I think I made him go along with it. Not mind that I beat him, that I whooped him in the ring that night, because I did it in such style, and I wasn't afraid of him that night. And I think that Larry felt good. I think somehow I made him feel good about losing to me. But that was the best and the most fun I ever had in the fight with Larry Holmes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I whooped his ass.
That's your catchphrase, that one, yeah?
Uh-huh. But I had a good time. And he couldn't do nothing with me. He couldn't do nothing with me.
Yeah.
And I did that. I did that for Leon and myself.
Yeah, of course. Now, surely hardly anyone can predict what would have happened better than you here. You fought Tyson, your brother fought Muhammad Ali. Who would have won in some sort of crazy fantasy fight if both men were in their prime, Tyson and Ali?
Muhammad would have beat him.
Yeah, I share that opinion. Is there a reason why? Or
He'd have jabbed the hell out of Tyson. Tyson would not have been able to get inside of Muhammad. Muhammad would have jabbed him to death.
Yeah, I agree.
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, I'd agree with that 100%. Now, what are you up to these days, Michael? What are you up to these days, everyday life? What does it consist of now?
Well, I do what I want to do. I got people calling me all around the country wanting me to sign autographs. So I do that, I got children. I got a son. I got a daughter. I got 2 daughters. And I got grandkids. So, I spend a lot of my time with them.
But are you enjoying life at the moment?
Say it again?
Are you enjoying your life at the moment? You content with life?
Oh, yeah. I'm enjoying myself. You can't have a better life than I had. I kicked a lot of butt. I didn't get hurt. I have no ailments from being in the ring. I'm pretty good. I'm all right. I'm cool in the game.
I'm happy to hear you say that.
I have no complaints.
I'm happy to hear you say that, Michael. Do you watch the sport of boxing these days at all?
Yeah, I watch whenever I can catch one. And then I watch that MMA and watch that crazy fighting. But I watch it every now and again.
And is there anyone that you're
Not
specific?
the same.
Yeah, it's not the same. No, I agree. Is there anyone that you're specifically into or a fan of these days?
No, nobody in particular, no.
Nobody in particular. Okay, Michael, before I let you go, I just want to give you an opportunity to, a message for any of your UK fans, because there's a lot of guys over here that are big fans of yourself.
Yeah, if I can tell them what I did. What I learned to do was to train hard, and you can get the best out of your body. You don't train hard, you're setting yourself up for default, not default, but you're setting yourself up for not doing so well in the ring. But when you care about yourself, you train hard, and you get the best out of your body. And you'll do well in the ring.
Absolutely. Okay, listen, Michael, I know you like to stay out of the public eye and you don't do many interviews, so I really appreciate you giving us a bit of time this week. It's a real honour to speak to one of the best fighters to ever lace up the gloves. I wish you the best health and blessings for the future. Michael, thank you very much.
You got it, man. Thank you much.
Okay, now it's time to conclude episode 38 of the BoxHard Podcast. What a crazy show. We've brought you 2 guests on this week's show, as per usual. The first guest, Tom Doran, undefeated 17-0 middleweight prospect. The second guest, the former Olympic Gold Medalist, former light heavyweight and heavyweight world champion, Michael Spinks. You just couldn't have dreamt it. These 2 names have absolutely nothing in common until today. They're both part of episode 38 on the BoxHard Podcast. No other podcast out there would have a lineup quite like this. We often throw 2 spices in the pan together and see what comes of it. And to be honest, I think it's come out pretty damn good. We started up the prediction league this week. Ayaz is going to keep note of that. I've gone for Porter to win on points. Ayaz went for Furman to win on points. We're going to see who's in the lead come next week. If you want to get involved in that, just tweet us at BoxHard Podcast on Twitter. Give us any predictions that you've got for any upcoming fights, and we'll read out your predictions on the air. As always, a massive thank you is owed to our listeners for making this show what it is. So on behalf of myself and Ayaz Sumra, God bless, and we'll see you next week.